This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the 13-inch HP Spectre x360 for late 2019. So still the gem cut design, but significantly revised. It's a lot smaller, particularly in this dimension. It's almost an inch or 23 millimeters less because, you know, the big top and bottom bezels the Spectre x360 used to have gone. And now they have the world's smallest, for now anyway, 2 millimeter webcam. So it still stays up top, no chin cam, all that sort of thing. So wow, it almost doesn't seem like a 13.3-inch laptop anymore, but yay, it is. We also get Intel 10th generation CPUs inside, the one with Intel Iris Plus graphics, and a couple of other changes and improvements, including a new exciting option, the OLED display, which I believe is the first 13-inch OLED to hit the market in 2019. We've seen a lot of 15.6-inch laptops, but Samsung is now shipping their 13-inch. We're going to look at it now. So cooling is also improved. Spectre x360s are thin metal machines, so they've always been on the toasty side. So like Apple, they said, hey, we'll make it a slight bit thicker. It's still very thin at 17 millimeters, but they have bigger vents and improved cooling, and it's effective enough. And the first day of use, it did run hot. It was doing Windows indexing, updates, all that sort of thing, and I was a little bit worried about it, but then it settled down, and the temperatures are now between the 40s centigrade and the 60s centigrade, depending on whether or not you have it plugged into AC, doing light work. And hard work, well, you can certainly get it toasty, but most of the time it doesn't go above 80 centigrade, which is really quite good. Again, we have Intel 10th generation CPUs inside the 15-watt variant. Now the Intel U series quad cores or Ice Lake are available in 25-watt and 15-watt. Really, there's just not enough room for cooling in a laptop this thin, so this is your standard 15-watt implementation, the quad-core CPU. Performance on it is fine. You know, there's not a huge generational leap, despite the fact Ice Lake goes to 10 nanometer from the 14 nanometer Whiskey Lake. Benchmarks aren't super different, but the Intel Iris Plus graphics does give a little extra punch. It's sort of like having a very low-end dedicated GPU, like an NVIDIA MX150 almost inside. We'll take it. That's not bad. Also, there's some AI improvements, which means like some of the Photoshop filters and stuff are actually faster. So there's some real-world gains there, besides the heat and battery life improvements that Ice Lake offers. We have the OLED display option, and I think that's the exciting part for a lot of you folks who like OLED displays, but there haven't been any 13-inch laptops in 2018 and 2019 with OLED on board. So it's a 4K OLED display. Now, HP is kind of confusing folks with their specs page. Sometimes it says it has a sort of anti-glare coating, sometimes it doesn't mention it. It's the usual kind of Gorilla Glass glossy look. It's maybe a little bit less glary than previous generations, because HP Spectres mirrors are us, you know, basically. So it's not quite as annoyingly reflective. I'll talk about the displays a little bit more later. Also, for those of you who hated the Synaptics touchpad driver, and now we have a Microsoft Precision trackpad. Now, the Synaptics trackpad, I didn't think it was that bad, and there have been many driver updates since the original Gem Cut was released, and now I think it's pretty darn good, but I know some of you despise anything that isn't Precision, so you'll be happy. We also have Intel Wi-Fi 6. It's the AX201 card from Intel, so you get the latest, greatest Wi-Fi with Bluetooth 5 on board. We have the same 65-watt charger that we've been seeing, that kind of attractive, almost looks like a chocolate bar, miniature chocolate bar kind of look. So it'll charge up to the first 50% of your charge, from 0 to 50 that is, in 30 minutes, HP claims. But then after that, it's going to slow down so as to not melt your battery and just charge at a normal rate. But that's kind of handy when you're on the go, traveling, and you're only in the airport lounge for, you know, an hour or something like that. Starts at around $1,200. That's with the full HD display at the Core i7, 8 gigs of RAM, which is not so impressive, that 8 gigs of RAM, and a 512 gig NVMe SSD, which is fine to get full HD display. I believe there's going to be a privacy option, which is listed as high brightness. That's because privacy screens have to have high brightness to make them viewable to you while nobody else can see them. Anyway, so it looks like the full HD IPS option and the OLED will be, there's no 4K IPS like there was in last generation. So if you don't like OLED, well, get the last generation one and save yourself some money. Now, memory is soldered on board here, so get it with the amount of memory you want. 8 and 16 gigs of RAM are your only two options, both dual channel. For SSDs, you can go from 512 gig NVMe all the way up to 2 terabyte if you're building to order on HP.com. Now, we have the Best Buy model of the OLED edition, and that one has a 1 terabyte SSD with 32 gigabytes of Intel Optane memory. It's decently fast. It's not class-leading fast, that Intel Optane option. Oh well. For ports, we have 2 Thunderbolt 3, including one that's on a little corner kind of out of the way, which is actually handy when you're plugging it in and using it on the desk. You have a USB-A port, you have a headphone jack, and you have a micro SD card slot. LTE is available, it's LTA and Intel modem, but only if you get the full HD display. So the trackpad is all good. It's a Microsoft Precision. It's a pretty decent size, a little on the wide side. That's how HP rolls. And the keyboard is pretty much like the last generation, which is to say, nice. Relatively speaking, for thin Ultrabooks on the market today, there's a lot of key travel and a lot of nice key feel going on here. I honestly actually prefer it to the 16-inch MacBook Pro's new Magic Keyboard, but that is up to you. It's certainly not squishy or mushy at all. It still feels firm, but it feels like a normal keyboard. And it is backlit in white. Now this is a convertible. It has the 360-degree hinges, so you can use it in tent mode or tablet mode or what have you. And it comes with the pen in the box. Yay! So it's the same HP pen that we've seen. It's n-trig technology behind the scenes. And the one that you get in the box is the one with the quadruple A battery. So, you know, after 6 months or a year, you replace that battery. There is also a HP rechargeable tilt pen that recharges via USB-C. The tilt uses Bluetooth, and it's a little bit complicated, and honestly, I find that it doesn't sleep well and tends to drain the charge, so I would go with the non-tilt pen. Pen technology being the same as the last generation and being n-trig, it's decent. It doesn't have the smoothest lines. It's not as good as what Microsoft Surface does with the same n-trig technology in terms of diagonal line jitter and all that sort of thing. Palm rejection is pretty good on it, especially if you use the Windows Modern Settings menu and turn off touch when pen is detected to avoid having your hand detected by accident. It's decent. It's fine for note-taking and that sort of thing. As an artist's tool, wouldn't be my first choice, but hey, it's better than nothing. Then again, if it's all you got, and you're going to get yourself a nice little 13-inch laptop and try to do it all with one. Performance on this, like I said, it's a little bit better than the Intel 8th generation, which is the outgoing. They skipped the 9th generation for Ultrabooks, so that's why we go from 8th to 10th generation. Not a huge jump, but the Intel Iris Plus graphics is significantly faster. That'll speed up, obviously, everything, because everything is drawn to the display, isn't it, that you're looking at. It's not going to be night and day. Suddenly I have a gaming laptop kind of experience, but it'll give it a little extra punch and oomph, and if you like to play older games on it, then you'll appreciate the difference there and give a little bit extra speed to Photoshop. Video editing, obviously not a professional video editing machine. No Ultrabook is with integrated graphics, but if you're doing it for fun on the side, again, Intel Iris Plus is going to help. In terms of heat and noise, like I said, after the first 24 hours or so when it was done indexing, updating, and all that sort of thing, temperatures on this are pretty good. It's still a thin metal Ultrabook, so you will feel some heat on the bottom and above the keyboard, which is a place you don't normally touch. The fans on this are not super loud. Most Ultrabooks are not. I don't think they're going to annoy anyone, even if you're pushing it really hard and playing, say, like Skyrim on it or something like that. You'll hear the fans, but not annoying. CPU temperatures are well under control. You can get them to hit the upper 90s near thermal throttling if you're doing something really hard, like benchmarking. And you can see for our PC Mark 10 benchmark, the part that hits the CPU hardest there on the graph, it will ramp up there at that spot. But in general, the CPU temperatures are pretty well controlled. And for a Spectre x360, it's doing the job well. Is it hugely cooler than the last generation, though? No, not really. So the displays, like I said, I believe there's going to be a full HD privacy display option and the standard full HD IPS display, which if you're on a budget and you don't want to spend the extra $200 for the OLED display, well, it certainly makes sense to do that. But if you like OLED, and who doesn't love the way OLED looks? Well, they have a fairly color accurate OLED display here, and it's reasonably bright. It's over 350 nits of brightness. Color calibration from the factory is pretty decent on this, and it's beautiful for content consumption. Most certainly it's great for watching videos and that sort of thing and looking at photographs and having them look their best. If I was doing content creation, I still worry a little bit about OLED because you're seeing a better representation of your stuff than most people will see who don't have OLED displays. And the whites on OLED can be a little weird. Some people describe it as yellow. See, with OLED, basically, when you're displaying black, it turns off all the pixels. That's why you have perfect blacks. But when you're displaying white, it has to illuminate all the pixels and try to create white. So obviously any imbalance in color there, when illuminating all pixels, will create a little bit of a color cast on white. My only complaint with it, and again, that's only for content creators, I think that really matters so much. while we're talking about OLED again, that is going to impact battery life too. See, it's great that you don't turn on any pixels when you're showing black, and that's why we have black themes on a lot of OLED laptops. But most of the time, you're looking at white web pages or Word documents and that sort of thing, or you're coding on it. So when it's displaying white, it's less power efficient than IPS. So typically, HP says expect like 2 hours less for run times. So if you go with that full HD option, you should be able to get 10 hours on this without a problem. We're doing about 7.5 or so with the OLED model, and that is using a black theme, which also helps to prevent burn-in. Another problem with OLED displays, it's getting more under control, but anything that's displayed for long periods of time risks being burned into the screen temporarily and maybe eventually permanently. So there you have it. If you want a beautiful display, get OLED. If you want battery life, go with the IPS display. As ever, removing the bottom cover is really difficult because you have to pull off the rubber strip, which is kind of hard to do without destroying it. So yes, you can remove the bottom cover, but not much is upgradable here except for the SSD. So that's the HP Spectre x360 13-inch. And once again, yes, it is Bob, best of the best. It is amazingly compact and light and really well made. And you've got the latest Intel CPUs inside with improved graphics. That OLED display option is very, very pretty. And there's the full HD option, which is no slouch if you want to save $200 as well. It's fast. The cooling is under control thanks to the revised design. There's really nothing particularly wrong I can say about this. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and hit that notification bell.